Hello colleagues, I'm Dr. Heidi Wojcik, and I am very excited to be launching our course ER903, Teaching Writing to Striving Readers. This is actually one of my favorite courses to teach. I love that it is in the summer and we have multiple opportunities and time to practice and engage in writing ourselves so that we can improve our capacity as writing teachers. So during this particular segment, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the syllabus and talk a little bit about the textbooks listed in this particular course. So you'll notice in the syllabus that I have included my cell phone number as well as my personal email and my Worcester State University email. Please feel free to call or text my cell phone with particular questions if you just have a quick question or response to something and something you need addressed right away. Please don't hesitate, even if it's on the weekend, to call or text me. So through this particular course, we'll really be thinking through the writing process itself, thinking about the number of opportunities we have, and really building our own philosophy to what it means to be a writing instructor, and how possibly our different structures and formats that we have for leading writing instruction may look different moving forward as they from what they have in the past. And so particularly I want you to think about the course format. So in this course, you'll be asked to not only read, but also respond to others. And the discussion board will include many opportunities for you to share your own writing. So I'll ask you to take on a writerly life and live really a literate life for the next few weeks, just as we ask many of our students to do throughout the school year. So regardless if you're a kindergarten or a middle grade teacher or early elementary or high school teacher, really you need to think really carefully about what types of learning opportunities you provide for your student, and also engage in them yourself so that you can really anticipate those challenges that students are going to face, because we all know that writing is one of the most difficult tasks to engage in, and it's also most difficult to teach because there's such a synthesis of learning modalities happening that we really want to think carefully about what our students are going to need moving forward. So this class really bases itself on that foundation, that we will be engaging not only to responding to prompts and thinking and responding to text, but really sharing our own writer's notebooks. So one thing that you'll want to sort of think about is what type of writing notebook or what type of platform most supports you as a writer. So will you carry around your iPad or a laptop or a sketchbook? So I've seen students address this requirement in many different ways, and hopefully it impacts you as a writer as we move forward beyond this particular course. So essentially, we'll be focusing a lot of our reading and response using Lucy Calkins' Teaching Writing text. So this is a newer text that was recently published and really thinks through the writing process itself and the parameters around what it really takes to impact our students as a writer and supporting their writerly life, having them write for authentic purposes and really think about meaning when they're writing, and embed a lot of that work with some fluency, with applying spelling strategies and the quality of their writing strategies that impact that work. And so she really provides that philosophy for us on how to build our own philosophy as writers and think deeply about how we feel about writing and what we convey to students to build that writing community. And then we'll be using the Schubitz book, and this really engages you in really thinking about mentor texts and how to make writing instruction explicit using picture books regardless of what age or grade your students are in. So thinking carefully about your selection of texts and how you can model from expert authors craft moves that students can really engage in. So these two texts are required, and I just want to share with you. So here is Lucy's text around teaching writing, and our course itself will really sort of follow along with her table of contents and really thinking about and engaging ourselves with what does the writing process really look like and how can we transfer that to what does it really look like in your classroom. And then thinking about really the big picture of writing workshop, and then how does that look in your classroom and how does that look virtually as we engage in some synchronous teaching. And then thinking about the different genres of writing, and we'll take a week probably for each one of the genres, and then we'll think more deeply about working with students in small groups and really setting goals for student writers, and what do our conversations sound like engaging with them, and then finally assessing writing when we're providing actionable feedback. And when I talk about actionable feedback, it's really identifying something that a student is doing well and a next step that they can take as a writer. So I'll be asking you to not only engage with thinking about maybe what your students are doing, but actually engaging with one another to provide some actionable feedback. So we want to think about actionable feedback as a vehicle, as a way to engage ourselves in providing feedback that doesn't just impact the piece of writing itself, but actually impacts the writer so that they get better at writing over time. So the quality of their writing improves. And sometimes the feedback that we offer to students is not evident in that moment, but may be evident in pieces moving forward. So providing opportunities for them to practice, giving them time to write, will really support them in moving forward. So we'll be thinking deeply about that as we move forward. And then sort of your role as a literacy leader to really impact not only yourself, but others around you in what it takes to be a leader in a literacy and writing itself. And Stacy Schubett's craft moves is only one example of a text that is published at this time that really provides you with strategies and lessons that will help you to be able to structure lessons in your own classroom and modify this work to your needs. And so that's why you can see some optional choices that are provided through this course depending on what age or grade level you're teaching. I try to give some options, but this particular text really focuses a little bit more on the mentor text and how to engage with mentor texts. And the other optional text really just includes strategies that you can teach to students rather than focusing on mentor texts themselves. So I particularly like this text because in the introduction, you'll see Stacy talks about putting on workshops and teachers really saying to her, so give me a list of 25 books. Just give me 25 books that I have to have in my classroom that I can teach from. And so the mentor texts that are included in the different genres within this book you may find really useful in moving forward regardless of your grade level because you can use them for different purposes. But you'll notice in her text that she provides you with the text itself examples of which text to choose. She sort of gives you an overview of the text, and then she gives you some craft moves that you can teach moving forward with students, and then how to engage in that work. And so I feel like her text really supports both elementary and middle school teachers. However, I also put it as an optional text, and I often list this for each course that I teach. So Jennifer Saravallo really has identified certain goals for writers, and she also has the companion to this text, which is the Reading Strategies book, to support you around setting student goals and really thinking about what students need as they're engaging in literacy work. And then she has her book organized by goal. And so for some people, the goals, if you're not a primary grade school teacher, right, you're not really thinking about some of these beginning goals, but some of the other goals moving forward would be more applicable to your students. But and this particular book includes anchor charts and prompts to engage with students as you're really leading them through actionable feedback and really providing them with some valuable actionable steps that they can move forward. But you can see that this is an emergent lesson. It's with any genre, right? And so the book is structured to be very helpful. So I tried to include texts that are very user-friendly, that you can apply to your teaching moving forward, and not just textbooks that are more teacher-centered. I also included as an optional text Lucy Calkins' Writing Pathways book, which is really a supportive resource to be able to assess students in each genre of writing. You can see mine is all tabbed and marked up so that I can engage with students in thinking about not only formative assessment to support their goal setting, but also summatively how they're engaging with each genre of writing over time. And so I particularly like this text because it gives me a trajectory of students as they engage in the writing process throughout each grade level. So sometimes a student developmentally may be performing at a grade 1 with leads or a kindergarten grade with leads, but their transitions may be on target. So this gives me a place to go for goal setting as I move forward. So I particularly like this text as an option and an optional resource for you to be able to choose. So you'll notice in the syllabus that I have other options for you. So you may go on Amazon or another resource to be able to identify which texts best suit your particular needs. But we will be definitely focusing on these 2 texts, and the others are definitely valuable resources. Also, you'll notice that I have listed Colleen Crew's Writers Read Better. And this is another resource that you may consider purchasing moving forward. And so I absolutely love this text because it actually pairs your lessons with reading and writing. And so you'll notice inside the text that she gives you a writing lesson and reading lessons that pair right along with that. So this seems more like an upper elementary text or a middle school text. I mean, I think you could adapt it to any grade level, but for those of you who are looking for companion lessons, this particular text is very powerful and very helpful. And she's also published a nonfiction version of that particular same text. So these are some options for you. I know I've listed multiple texts, but I wanted to be able to have you have a little bit of choice in the text, in the course, with the texts that you will choose. In the next section of the syllabus, you'll notice the particular assignments that I'll be using for grading. And so there'll be a writing portfolio. So you'll notice in the discussion board each week, there'll be options for you to be able to add to your writing portfolio. So in essence, that really is your portfolio. Some of you will be using a notebook. You may take pictures of some of the writing you've done. You may, and these are drafts. These are not things that you are expected to publish each week, although by the end of the course, you will be required to bring a minimum of 3 pieces to publication. So I try to embed the required pieces throughout the course of things that I ask you to do. And so it should not be hard to hit this target. Oftentimes we have students exceed this because they start writing a draft of a story or a poem, and they decide to engage in the writing process to bring it to publication or a more fine finished draft. And so as a community, I hope that even though we'll be doing a lot of our work online, that we can sort of build a type of relationship as writers that we can engage with one another in a meaningful way so that it doesn't feel intimidating to have other people read your pieces. And obviously you have the choice to pick and choose which pieces you're going to publish. So whichever ones feel safer to you, or if you feel like you want to take a risk and publish something that you really feel like is a powerful piece and you want to have a voice in sharing that with others. So this writing portfolio is a big piece, and it will be not only something you will have, but something that will continuously and summatively be graded towards the end of the course. And you'll be expected to be engaged as a writer as we work through this course. And so writers practice outside of class. They practice all the time. I always encourage students to really sort of think of yourself as a writer. You might have a small pocket notebook. You might have a sketchbook. You can really engage in the process any way you choose. I found myself even on my vacations and trips, I'll just take a little notebook with me, and sometimes I'll draw a picture or I'll take a picture, because sometimes photographs can really be inspirational for us, and it could be a memorable moment, and we sort of just open ourselves up to some free writing, and that's really being engaged as a writer and trying to really notice what it is as a writer that you can pick and choose from, so that eventually you can engage in that process to take that piece further along. Many times, things in our notebooks, we'd never really take any further. We're just sort of listing ideas. And remember, this is different than a journal. It's not your day-to-day. These are things that were purposeful and intentional. We create lists. It's not like, well, today it's not a diary. It is really the things that impact us and the strategies that we engage in to really think about ourselves as writers. Then you'll be engaging in a weekly literature share. So at one point, you'll notice in the groups section of Blackboard that you will be assigned to a certain week to produce a piece of literature. And so basically it's just any text that you love and that you want to share with the class. So each week, one person will share a piece of writing. So not every single week, just once, one time during the course. And so usually people have a visual, like the picture of the cover. They'll tell a little bit about the text, and then they sort of just list a few things that they want to share about the text, some highlights of the text, and sometimes people will create a video recording of a read aloud of the text. They might find something on YouTube that supports it. So you'll have an opportunity to engage in that each week. You can read other people's literature share and what insights they have around literature that can help you grow your capacity for children's literature. You'll also have a video lesson demonstrations. So towards the end of this course, you will produce a video. You'll choose one writing strategy, and it can be from anyone from any of the texts that you have in front of you, or it could be one that you've engaged in over the years, and you'll provide a brief lesson plan, and you will sort of teach us a writing strategy and really sort of then reflect on why you would use that particular strategy. We'll talk a little bit more about that as the course moves on. You'll also be writing an issue brief, so an important topic around writing, so one aspect of the writing process. So it could be that kids should engage in the writing process. What should they be thinking about revision? What would you share with parents? What would you share with your colleagues? So it's a particular issue that you might research 2 or 3 resources, and you'll provide 1 or 2 page issue brief, something really just outlining the importance of what it is you want to share. A lot of times people think about some aspect of your class that will be happening in the fall surrounding writing, and they use this opportunity to really create a piece of writing that they will share with their school community or with parents. And so remember, with our writing portfolio, this counts as one of your published pieces. So if there's only 3, you only have 2 others to produce. And you'll also notice in week 1, there's an opportunity to write a bio poem. So it's a template where we get to know you a little bit better through a poem, and that also counts as one of your pieces. So I try to support you with thinking about really that you are publishing over and over again for multiple opportunities and purposes throughout the course. So it's pretty easy to hit this 3-piece target if you think about that bio poem being 1 and your issue brief being your 2nd piece. So you'll just have to pick one last piece that you'll bring to publication. It's really important that you engage in that discussion board learning forum. You'll be asked to really think about your reading and provide some insights. So some type of summary of learning where you're really analyzing what you've read and sort of making connections to yourself, your classroom environment, and really synthesizing the learning almost like you were in a virtual book club. So there'll be opportunities for your colleagues to respond to you, and there sort of will be this back and forth conversation using that learning log. And the reason I really like this is it provides you with a choice of what really resonates with you in your reading. And I also try to provide some type of prompt in case you're not really sure what you want to add. I usually include that in the place where you're just sort of publishing some type of writing notebook work that week. So really this is a place to engage in others with deep conversations around the reading and how you connected with that. Or sometimes it can even be questions around the reading, like you're not really sure what the author intended, or you may not agree with what the author said. Sometimes those are the best and most powerful discussions as we engage with other colleagues. And as teachers and educators in the classroom every single day, we often don't have time for these deep, rich conversations. So hopefully this will provide a platform for you to engage in that work. Finally, you will notice the grading criteria for each of the pieces. So you'll notice the writing portfolio, which really includes the 3 pieces of writing and engaging in that process. The weekly literature share, so that you've taken your turn in really sharing a piece of literature and talking to others about how you could use that mentor text in the writing process. You may have 1 or 2 strategies that you would like to highlight. You will be producing that video lesson demonstration, so just picking 1 strategy and creating a brief video on something that you would share with your students. So you may angle that towards your particular classroom, something that you'll be launching in the fall if that's appropriate for you. You'll have your issue brief, and then finally your discussion board and your learning logs. And so there'll be multiple opportunities for you to engage in throughout throughout the course. And then finally, you'll notice some of the guidelines posted from the college, some resources that you maybe need to access in the course. So again, I'm always open to questions or really just sort of supporting you in any way throughout the course. I'm perfectly open. Please, again, you feel free to text me with anything you need if you need additional time on an assignment, or you may notice that a date doesn't work, a link isn't working for you. So I really appreciate you as learners alongside of me, really providing me feedback as we move forward.